All right, so today we have Brittany Williams. I'm so glad to have her on the podcast today. Brittany has an incredible career that spans financial services to high tech to venture capital. But for the context of this conversation, she's the founder and CEO of AdmissionsHelp. Brittany, how's it going?
Going great, Wega. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. No, glad to have you here. Let's kick off. Just kind of tell us about yourself and your background and what made you start a business.
Sure. So we met as classmates at the University of Virginia. I graduated in 2010 with my degree in systems and information engineering and a minor in business. And I took that degree and really went kind of the financial services route. So I went back to New York, worked in banking for a couple of years at Citibank in New York, went out to London for about 5 years and transitioned to Goldman Sachs, where I was doing a very similar role of credit risk management and ratings advisory for technology, media, and telecom companies. So what that means, it's a bit of a mouthful, but what that means is that I was analyzing companies' financial profiles and making risk assessments on how much credit risk the bank should take to that particular company. I was looking at it from an industry level, from a company level, and partnering with our investment banking team as we look at different deals like mergers and acquisitions that require financing. And so I did that for about 5 years and really got the itch to, one, want to come back home, leave the UK and come back to the States, but two, to leave services altogether, because I had, future aspirations of really wanting to run a business. And my goal is to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And so I went back to get my MBA. I got my MBA from Harvard Business School and graduated in 2018. And after HBS, moved out to the West Coast. So I've been out here in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 3 going on 4 years now. And I started off working at Intel on their gaming and esports team, doing business development work, working on some of our largest gaming partnerships, and really being able to strike deals and also generate more revenue from our existing partners. And then I pivoted into our venture capital arm, where I served as the deputy chief of staff to Wendell Brooks, who was the former head of venture capital at Intel. After Wendell left the firm, I sought out some new opportunities and landed at an incredible company that I'm at now called LegalZoom. They are specifically focused on small businesses and helping small business owners form their business, but also offering services throughout the entire life cycle of a small business owner's career. And so I've been here now a little over a year. I was on the IPO working team, which was a phenomenal opportunity. We went public this past June. And in addition to the work that I do in investor relations, I also am actively involved in the strategy and operations of our attorney-assisted services. So that's a bit of my career.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So with that, it's kind of a fascinating journey, and I'm formulating questions in my head about your career, but talk to me a little bit about how AdmissionsHelp fits into this and where that idea got planted and how you find the time to do it in the midst of all the great things you're doing.
I have no idea. But I think most small business owners have that same response, right? Is I don't know how I find the time. I just do. So AdmissionsHelp, I founded AdmissionsHelp back in 2017. And really, I have, for as long as I can remember, always been the person that friends, family, my parents, friends, would reach out to for college admissions help. Can you review my son or my daughter's resume? Can you look at their essay and offer feedback? Can you look at this school list and see if it makes the most sense for my, for my friend or my daughter? And when I was in business school, I really started to think, wow, there must be a way for me to monetize this. This is the passion point of mine. There's obviously a customer demand and a need for this type of service. And let's be frank, there's not many people that look like us who are doing it. And so I was on the phone late at night with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was just like, why don't you start a business? Like, you do this work, it's a way for you to get some excess cash while you're in graduate school, if anything, right?
Right.
And that really kind of like lit the fire for me. And I remember getting off the phone with him, staying up until like 3, 4 in the morning on Squarespace, building this scrappy website. I went to Fiverr, I got a logo done, and next thing you know, AdmissionsHelp was born. And it's been an incredible journey for me to really kind of have something that I call my own. But to also be working in corporate America and be able to kind of juggle the two. I think it's a really interesting perspective when you're not all in, but you're obviously very passionate about it.
No, I love it because I love the idea of sitting back and thinking, what are people always asking me for help on? Right? Because we all sometimes overlook the skills that we have, and we overlook the fact that, man, people really appreciate the fact that I do really well at reviewing people's essays or giving people feedback. Right. So it's awesome that you had that self-reflection to then turn that into a business opportunity, a business plan. So as you kind of were speaking with Sam about it, like, what was your first action when he said start a business? What was the first thing you did?
I mean, the first thing naturally is, okay, like, what's the business going to be called, right? So I go to these websites to see what domains are available. That's the first step that small business owners tend to do. And I'm checking all these different names, right? And eventually we got to the point of AdmissionsHelp, right? I'm not a creative person. So for me, it's just, this is what I'm offering. Oh, wow, admissionshelp.org is available. Let's go with it. And so once I did that, I then immediately went to Fiverr to try and find freelance talent to help me create a logo and just get some of the branding elements together.
That's awesome. No, it's there's something about giving your business a name, right? And it makes it real. It's kind of like a child or an infant. It's like, it's a real thing now. Right. So no, I love that. So let's start getting into finding customers. You've launched this. You've got a full-time job, right? You're busy. Well, sorry, at the time you're in school. Right. You're at Harvard. How do you find the time to try to get customers and really, it's not a business until someone pays you for it.
Exactly. You've really, hit a point in this conversation that I think is so important. It's like, how do you get your first customer, right? Especially when you're a small business owner, you don't have this huge marketing budget to invest in SEO and SEM and all of the different customer acquisition tools that you can use for marketing. So I'm going to be honest, I was scrappy. I reached out to everyone in my network, sent an email and told them, hey, started this business. If you know anyone who's looking for MBA and college undergraduate admissions help, check me out. Check out my website, sign up for a discovery call, which is a 30-minute call that I offer that's complimentary. And once I got people to sign up for those discovery calls, then that was my opportunity to sell myself to them and sell my services. And I was able to convert. But really, it was scrappy. It was very much targeted emails. I use social media. So my own personal page, which obviously has a wider network than my business pages. And I was actually really surprised by, how many people really were impressed by the fact that I was starting this business and were either referring people to me or actually said, hey, I'm interested in getting an MBA, would love to talk to you and learn more about how you made it happen and how AdmissionsHelp can help me get to that point. So it was the power of social networking and the power of just your broader network really helped me secure my first couple of customers.
That's incredible. No, I think people often underestimate the power of their network, regardless of what you think your network is or the quality of it for your customers.
Right.
You just need a couple advocates, and I think that's great that that's how you were able to get a start. Talk to me about how you figure out how much to charge. That's also a hard thing, especially because you're, correct me if I'm wrong, you're selling your time to a certain extent. How did you come up with that that pricing model?
It's the pricing model exercise that I went through and that I'm still going through is always a challenging one. For me, what I started to do at first was to really look at comps, right? What were other admissions companies charging either for their end-to-end services, which I offer. I offer what's called a start to finish package, where you can really think about this being like the white glove service package that I really help you from forming your list to getting all of your essays out for the schools that are on your list by the admissions application deadline.
Right.
So I was looking at people who are different companies who are offering similar packages. And I actually did like a pricing competitive like benchmarking, right?
Okay.
I then also looked at the a la carte services and how much people were charging per hour, right? And did the same. And what I found is that people are charging a ton of money for these services,
Yes,
right?
they are.
So then that's where the self-doubt kicks in. And I have to be honest, when I did that benchmarking, I had in my mind my price point of where I wanted to start out, selling my services. And when I looked at the benchmarking, I said, there's no way I can charge that much. I don't even have a customer who's paying me yet. I'm doing this on the side as a favor for people. And that's when that imposter syndrome started to kick in, right? And I remember when I first started talking to customers in the discovery calls that I have, and when I start pitching the start to finish package at $19.95 per package, I remember not being able to even like say that confidently at first without, choking up or thinking, oh, if that's too much, I can cut it in half, right?
Right.
So I had to practice. I had to like look in the mirror, practice giving my pitch in the discovery call, saying the price, and then being silent. Yeah. And what you find is that if you just force yourself to be silent and let the customer absorb it and ask whatever follow-up questions they have, then you actually find that, they might be okay with that price, or maybe they even thought that was cheaper than what they expected, right? And you don't talk yourself out of a deal. So that was a learned lesson. And I have to be honest, I'm still learning that. It can be tough. It can be tough.
Yeah. Don't say no for the customer. Like that, there's like, there's so many gems in that, right? Like, I love the fact that you practice in the mirror. I love the idea of you say the price, you drop the mic and you wait.
Exactly.
that is so, it's a good kind of, for listeners at like a tactical level, like some strategies to use, because that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome, it is real. It is so real, whether you experience it in your day-to-day work, in your career, or with your business, but especially when you don't have that safety net and you're an entrepreneur. I can only imagine you're like, someone's going to pay me this much.
Right. Yeah.
What? So I want to dive in a little bit about that. And if you don't mind,
sure.
What kind of mental inner conversations did you have with yourself? Especially when you were discovering what people were charging. Yeah. You couldn't find the confidence to charge that much. Like, did you go back to, hey, this is my value, this is what I'm trying to do, this is what I'm trying to serve? or was it an experimentation? Did you just say, yeah, we'll throw out a price and we'll see if people bite and we'll adjust from there? What was the self-talk?
It's a little bit of both, right? So I think whenever imposter syndrome kicks in, whether it's through like figuring out how much you know, charge, right? And your value that you're bringing to the end customer, or even just in your day to day, right?
Yeah.
Whenever imposter syndrome kicks in, one of the things that and one of the tools that I use to kind of combat that is to actually write down like my receipts, right? Like,
Yeah.
these are the reasons why I am qualified and capable to charge this amount, or to be in this room, or to, you know, interface with this senior leader, right? And just kind of have to like physically write it down to like get it in your brain and remind yourself, like,
Yeah.
I deserve to do this and I deserve to be here. And this is how much, you know, I am worth, right? I'm worth more than this, but you're lucky to even get a portion of my services for this amount, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the more that you can ingrain that in your mind, I think the more you can start to combat some of those saboteurs, is what they call them, right? That get in your head and have you think that you're not worthy or you're less than. So it was a bit of that, but I do have to be honest, it was also a little of like trial and error, right? So in my mind, I always thought, you know, I can always make adjustments to pricing models, right? Or add new products or services to also try and extract more value from the customers, like down the chain. So an example of that is the online course that I created. So, you know, I thought, there might be an opportunity here if people want to come in at the lower end of my pricing funnel. So maybe they just want to test me out and pay, you know, an hourly rate for my services, but they find value in that. Then they may want to buy my online course, which is 5 steps to successfully completing the MBA application process. And that's a way for me to further monetize them through additional products and services, right? And I did that about 1.5 years after launching. So that wasn't on day one. So I think my lesson is it's a bit of trial and error. And it's also, you know, you can change your price, you know, you can add additional services. Like, there's so much you can do. It's really important to just get feedback from the customer.
Right. No, that's great. Were there excuse me, were there things that you tried out that you discovered, I don't think this is working?
Well, I'll tell you, my original hourly rate was a lot lower than my current rate, which varies. It can be around $175 to $200 an hour, depending on the actual a la carte service. But when I first went out, I was like, oh, $75 an hour. Like, that's, you know, somebody will pay me that, right?
Yeah.
And I got feedback from some really close friends who were just like, Brittany, you're lowballing yourself. Like, how much is your time worth? Like, you're lowballing yourself. And I needed to hear that. And some may even say that at $175 to $200 an hour, that I'm still lowballing myself, because there are other companies who are charging upwards of $400 to $500 an hour for similar services. And so you need to also have either business advisors or friends that you trust or people that you can confide in on a business level to also just be like, what are you doing? You know, like,
yeah.
So I think that was a really a huge learning for me.
Yeah, awesome. And you're giving me perfect segues to my question. So this is awesome. So you talked about mentors and advisors. Let's talk about do you leverage them? And then also, how did you find them for your business?
You know, I love this question because I have had several different mentors and sponsors like throughout my career at different points of my career. And I can't point to one person who has been like my go-to mentor for like the past, 12 years, right, of my professional career. I can't think of one person, but what I can think of at least 5 different people that were in different points of my career critical to me moving forward. And so I leverage mentors. I have phenomenal friends as well who are also very much mentors to me. And I think for me as well, like your partner who you choose to live life with and enjoy life with is also really important. And so my husband is an incredible mentor, and he's way more entrepreneurial than I am. He has a higher risk tolerance than I do. And so that is also helpful for me because he'll kind of be like, you can push it a little bit more, don't be so, risk averse. And you need that balance as well.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. No, that's incredible. How, so given where your business is, and given the things that you're trying to discover, you've been testing and you've been experimenting, do you feel like you figured it out?
No, I do not. I'm getting closer, but I absolutely have not figured it out. One of the things that I'm trying to figure out right now is in a services company, you're trading your time for money, right? I charge an hourly rate often for services, or I'll charge that flat fee, right, for my a la carte package, the start to, or rather the all-encompassing package, the start to finish one. But I'm only one person. And I'm also doing this on the side while working a very demanding job in Silicon Valley. And so I needed to find ways to move away from, a one-to-one kind of trading time for money. And so that's what actually prompted me to use the pandemic to actually record and create online course content that I sell via an online marketplace called Podia. And I would highly recommend Podia to any small business owners that are in the services space that are looking to launch a course because they offer a white label service. So you can add your branding, and you can also, it's really configurable. And it's relatively cheap on a monthly basis. It's about $39 a month. And what I did was I recorded myself on Zoom, so very scrappy. I created supplemental material through PDFs. I walked through essentially my course content that I walk through with a customer live, right? But the beauty of it is you record once, you get it edited, you have a finished product, and then you sell many times.
Exactly.
And that has been, it's been incredible. And for me personally, I'm now like when you talk about figuring it out, I have this course, I've made, various sales, but I'm trying to maximize the sales, right? And now for me, the learning and how I can kind of try and get closer to figuring it all out is how do I better market this product? I have this product, it's on my website, it's on Podia, I use social media, but I really need to invest in, getting more eyeballs to it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm still trying to learn.
Awesome. Have you been able to work yourself out of a job and scale and hire more resources, or is that something that, you're actively trying to figure out? When do I do it? When do I have enough revenue? Where are you in that journey?
It's not my goal. I love my 9 to 5, although it's not a 9 to 5. It's more like a 9 to 9 or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And I have huge aspirations of wanting to climb the corporate ladder. But I also have aspirations of wanting to have my own brand, right? So if I think about my exit, 10, 15 years from now, hopefully, I'll be C-level at a phenomenal organization. Obviously, I won't be able to, run AdmissionsHelp and then also run an organization. And so for me, I think about wanting to bring someone in almost as like an operations manager or someone beneath me that I can train. I feel entirely comfortable that they can run the business, and I can kind of hop in as needed,
Yeah.
and still have my day to day. I think for me, I get bored doing just one thing, and so having my own business and being able to help my customers achieve their school goals, like for me, that's really, really deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
But I also have my own personal aspirations in the corporate arena as well. So
Yeah.
it's always trying to have these dual like interests. They're synergistic, right? But they can tend to be competing when you think about your finite amount of time that you have in a day.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love the self-awareness of kind of knowing what you want and why you do what you do. I think that's numero uno, right? And I also love the fact that I love the idea of getting admissions help from a Fortune 500 CEO. Like that would be awesome.
It'd be really cool, man. If only there were more hours in the day, I think, yeah, that would be awesome.
That would be incredible. But I think it would come with higher demands that I absolutely have to get into Harvard now.
My hourly rate would go up too, and I wouldn't be ashamed of it either. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'd be offended if it didn't. Awesome. So we've talked about time. We've talked about your ambitions, and let's talk about life, right? Yeah. Let's talk about how you integrate all of these things together. What does that look like for you?
Man, it's tough to balance. It's really tough to balance. I'm the kind of person that gives 110% to everything that I choose to. And at times that's just not, sustainable, right?
Right.
And so for me, I, have to be very, 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 very like strict almost about my time.
Yeah.
And calendaring everything. And it sounds crazy, but even like catch ups with friends and things like that, everything's on the calendar. And it's funny when you chat with people like your best friends now, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we feel like we have to calendar our time together. And when did we ever get to that point? But it can just be a reality of all the different kind of things that are competing for your time. And so I think for me, scheduling is everything. And one thing that I am struggling with, but I need to, is being okay with saying no to things. As I move kind of further and further along in my career, I'm finding many people, asking for parts of my time, right? Asking to sit on, various advisory boards or nonprofit boards and things like that. And if it's not something that truly speaks to me and I truly feel like I can add value and I truly think is something that, is worth the trade-off of something else that I couldn't do in that time, then I say no, right? Yeah. And that's actually something that I'm trying to get better at because I feel bad saying no. But I need to kind of just be more comfortable saying no and really being strict with how I utilize my time, to be able to kind of give the 110% to those things that matter the most, like admissions help. Yeah,
absolutely. Have you had to tell a customer no or tell someone who's asked for, whether it's a willing to pay customer or, it's your cousin asking for their child support in getting into college?
I have had to turn down customers, and that the first time I had to do that was a learning for me. In the beginning, you're kind of like, whoever's willing to pay me, yes, I will take you as a customer, right? And I learned, in a couple of admission cycles that not all customers are as invested in the process as I am as their coach, right? And that doesn't work. If I'm more invested than you are in your future graduate school pursuits, then, I can't help you. right?
Right.
And so now I have actually changed the way that I think about my discovery call, my 30-minute complimentary call. So it's a sales call, but I'm also interviewing the customer. What are your career aspirations? Like, tell me a bit more about your academic profile. Like, I want to make sure that you're also a customer that is 110% committed to this, so that when we work together, we have a successful outcome.
Right.
So I have turned away customers who were willing to pay because now that I've been doing this for a while, I can sense early on when this is not going to work. I'm like, your money's green, but I'm sorry, like this is not the right fit. And I think the sooner you can do that as a business owner, the better.
I think that's great advice. In season 1, we had a conversation with an attorney, and he had something very similar. And he said, the more you get into it, you learn the triggers and the signs, like, I can't take this on. This is going to take too much of my time.
Right.
Because of course, attorneys, it's purely time for money. Right? So no, that's a lot of wisdom to be able to identify, like, this isn't going to be kind of mutually beneficial for us. Interviewing the customer, I think, is a great concept to think about.
Yeah.
So you've talked about kind of where you want to go with your career. You've talked about what you want AdmissionsHelp to look like, potentially many years down the road. In terms of being an entrepreneur, were there any misconceptions that you had, or things that you were surprised about when you launched?
Yeah, quite a few. So I think one of the bad things about, social media and just like everything being kind of all out in the open is that you only tend to see everyone's highlight reel. And when you are looking at, someone who started a business, you're seeing all of the success. Oh, wow, they just got X amount of funding. Oh, wow, look at this huge customer they secured. Oh, wow, look at these testimonials that they're sharing, right?
Right.
And you can start to compare yourself to others and start to think, oh, wow, maybe I'm not as good. Maybe I'm not doing this right. And again, the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome kicks in. And so what I have to kind of think about, and one of the learnings that I had, is that, look, everyone's showing you their highlight reel. And more often than not, entrepreneurs are failing, right? No one shows you the failure. Everyone shows you that 0.0001% of like success, right?
Yep.
And the quicker that you can realize that, and the quicker that you can actually embrace the failure, and what I like to say is fail forward. That's what a mentor shared with me, and I actually take that to heart. I think it's really important to fail forward and just to always learn from the mistakes and not to harp on them too long. But the quicker you can do that, I think the better and the more nimble you can be as an entrepreneur and as a small business owner. So I think that that is a huge learning.
Awesome. Yeah. Or were there others? I know you said that there are a couple. Were there others?
Yeah, well, let's see. The other one we touched on, which is, not all clients are kind of created equal, right? And that you actually have to sometimes fire your customer.
I'm so stealing that quote. Not all clients are created equal. That's a great quote.
It took me a while to get there. I think the other example I would share is, a learning around when you should bring in employees or maybe a partner. Mm-hmm. And so I have had many friends, former classmates who have reached out and said, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing, would love to work with you, partner with you, essentially some kind of like employee type of relationship. And to date, I have been running and operating Admissions Help on my own. And it can be hard to kind of tell people no, or maybe not right now, right? Especially if they are within your network. But I think for me, the learning there was, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, you have to have tough conversations. And I personally think there's a lot of risk with bringing people that are within your network into kind of an employee or partnership type of relationship. Yeah. It works, but I personally believe that you have to put a lot of structure around it to make it work.
Absolutely.
And be comfortable with the consequences that it might actually impact your relationship long-term. And so for me, I guess one of the learnings was, you have to be comfortable doing what you think is best for the business and best for Admissions Help right now. Yeah. And sometimes you have to put personal relationships aside a bit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's okay.
How much of the identity of Admissions Help is the identity of Brittany?
That's a great question. And actually, one thing is something that I really, think about as I think about, when the right time might be to expand or to bring in that operations lead that I shared with you, as I think about ways to kind of, scale the business and move away from it 110%, right? Mm-hmm. Right now, Admissions Help is my baby, and it is, my identity, me as the founder and CEO and the admissions coach for customers, is the identity of Admissions Help, right? That's not to say that we can move away from that, because I do think as a founder and as a CEO, like, it's important to scale. And by scaling, sometimes it means losing some of that control, right? And that's important. That's another learning that I should have added, right? But it's hard to do that because your emotions get involved, right? And I think I'm still at the point where I am not yet ready to lose part of that identity, and that's okay. That's okay, but that's something that I struggle with. So I think it's a great point that you raise.
Yeah. I want to ask, I want to go back just a little bit, because I'm thinking about, excuse me, I'm thinking about kind of this, growing your career and your business at the same time. And I'm thinking back to your intro and thinking about where you've been in your career. I'm processing and I'm thinking, okay, well, LegalZoom just IPO'd in June. In my career, I understand a lot of what goes into that type of activity within a corporate environment. And I'm thinking you are the sole owner, operator, manager of Admissions Help. And so the question I have is, are there moments where you have to tell yourself it's okay for Admissions Help to take a back seat, or we're going to take a couple months off because this is about to get crazy? Like, what is that self-talk? Like, is that something that you deal with?
Absolutely. So this year was one of the most difficult years of my professional career. I joined LegalZoom in October of 2020, and within 3 months was pulled into the IPO process, supporting our CEO, building investor decks that ultimately formed the basis of the roadshow deck, and drafting elements of the S1, you name it. And so Admissions Help actually took, the back seat, right? Yeah. And I, in the beginning, I was trying to do it all. I was trying to give my all in a new job at work where I was still ramping and now was expected to communicate our story externally, right? So I felt like I was failing in my 9 to 5. I felt like I was failing with admissions help because I wasn't doing my active, like I would often go on like speaker opportunities and that was another way that I would attract clients and acquire customers. And I just did not have the time to do that. So I wasn't sourcing customers. I only have a couple of customers this cycle, being completely honest. And I was also planning a wedding in the middle of a pandemic, which got postponed to next March, but we ended up getting married legally and we had that whole kind of COVID bride and groom story.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I'll be honest, I burnt out. I burnt out. And many people don't know that it actually impacted me physically. And anxiety is real. Trying to get everything done and trying to be perfect, and just the challenges of being a Black woman in professional settings, and anxiety is real. And I experienced that firsthand. And so for me, and what I take away from just this experience and like getting through it all, but it's okay for some things to take the back seat while other, like you can juggle, and that's okay. And that does not mean that you're a failure. The quicker that you can realize that you need to adjust for your own mental sanity, like the better. And I'm really, really conscious of that. And even more conscious of the fact that I need to invest more in my course and trying to kind of make money while I sleep, so that when I have experiences like this at work that I can't predict, but are, career kind of like highlights, right, I'll still be able to invest in admissions help like I would like to, without having to trade my time.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
I think that you alluded to social media and a lot of the pressures that come with constantly seeing people's highlights. I also think that in social media, there's this constant admiration for hustle, right? Sleep when you die, right? And that mentality of just push. And to your point, especially in the pandemic, we're all, no one's gone through this before, right? In dealing with the pressures at work, dealing with, running your own business, dealing with the world, getting married. I think it is very important, I think, as an entrepreneur or anybody, to just say, it's okay to take a break. It's okay. Your business isn't going to completely crumble unless it's a time-based business, obviously. But no, I think that that's incredibly impactful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You make a huge point around just kind of like the grind and the hustle culture. A lot of people, and I think about this often too, right? Like admissions consulting was and is a passion of mine. And did I have to take a hobby and make it and turn it into a business, right? Like, would I still be equally fulfilled with admissions help being my hobby or something that I do, just to kind of service others, right?
Right.
I don't have any regrets for making it a business, but it's something that I think about often because of the pressure that you get for like side gigs and hustle culture and the, the grind, right? Especially in the Bay Area, everyone's got 2 or 3 gigs that they're working on. If you're not, you're lazy, right? It's like, so it's the pressure is real.
Yeah. It's something that just popped in my mind, which is actually super exciting for me in the podcast. You might be the first guest that has a business or a side hustle that they're not trying to make it their full-time thing, which is pretty awesome. We've had former entrepreneurs that,
Yeah.
started a business and moved on to go back into the corporate world, or, having a job. We've had YouTubers, but yeah, you're the first, like, I have a side hustle and I want it to be a side hustle. It's an interesting perspective. There's just so many perspectives in this world that I don't feel are shared enough. That entrepreneurs, there's not one version of it. It's like you said, the difference between a hobby and a business is what makes money.
Yeah.
Figuring out whether you'll be fulfilled either side is on you. But if you want to make money, it's cool. So yeah, no, that's awesome. This is very exciting.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad I'm the first. I hope I'm not the last.
Hopefully you're not the last. All right. So let's start getting into some of the, I call them quick, but you're welcome to elaborate or make them as long as you want. But I might try to kind of run through a couple questions. So, what are some books that you've read that were super impactful, or books that you are reading that you'd recommend?
Yeah. So my favorite book, Expect to Win by Carla Harris. She is literally my idol, former vice chairman of wealth management at Morgan Stanley, the most senior Black woman on Wall Street. Phenomenal woman. She has what are called Carla's Pearls, and they're pearls of wisdom that got me through working on Wall Street, but actually carry me through my career. And it's for anyone. So expect to win.
Okay. Awesome. I'm trying to change my question last minute, and now I've got to like rethink and make sure it's right. What's more rewarding? Admissions counseling for undergrad or for MBA?
It's a hard one. Honestly, undergrad, because it's their first, like, students' first kind of foray into like their own independent decision that they make, right? And so to help them kind of take that first step is really, really rewarding. So undergrad.
Nice. Okay. What's a question that you think I should ask the next guest?
I don't know. Are you going to ask me after? Because
100% that I'm going to ask you this question.
Then that will change my answer. This is a good one. I always think learning about failures is great, right? So like, tell me about a time when you failed and like, what did you learn from it? So that one I think is a good one.
Okay. Your answer.
I knew that was coming. Let's see. Oh gosh, there's lots of failures. Which one do I want to share with the world? Is
the most humiliating one. That's the one.
Oh, well, so I'll share a failure. It's not AdmissionsHelp related, but I think there's good lessons to be learned from it. So this was a failure that I had working at Goldman Sachs in their London office, and trying to say yes to everything and to do it all. I was overstaffed on too many projects, got an opportunity to take a stretch role for one of our managing directors. And long story short, I send an email to the CFO of a large scale grocer, and like just had wrong numbers, like everywhere, wrong numbers. And he pointed it out on the email chain with everyone CC'd. I was humiliated. I immediately have to go into my managing director's office, admit that I made the mistake, show the corrected, information, and apologize for taking on work that I clearly was too stretched to be able to do well, right? And so for me, and we discussed a ton about time management, being able to be really strict with your time, saying no to things. That was a lesson early on that I carry now throughout my career. I am like, you want to do everything, but honestly, it's worse if you do, a poor job at it. And so it's okay to say no, is what I learned in that embarrassing moment. I was convinced I was going to get fired. I was convinced I was fired. So. I
love it. There's always, and it, we all catastrophize, right? We're just like, okay, the worst thing that's going to happen is going to happen, and it doesn't. Yeah. And look at you now. You can laugh about it.
I can laugh about it. In the moment, I was crying and like, on the phone with my mom, like, it's okay. I'm coming back to the U.S. It's okay.
Okay, I'm actually gonna pull from a recommended question from a guest in the last season. What do you do in your spare time?
Oh man, I am a big foodie. So I am trying different foods, different restaurants, love travel. My travel bug really started when I was in London for those 5 years, traveling throughout Europe. What else? This is embarrassing, but lots of like Netflix and just poor reality TV shows, but you have to unwind and unplug. So I'm not shy about that. But yeah, that's what I do.
Good. I think it goes back to, you said you give everything you want 110%. And Ken, the person that suggested that question, he's fascinated with the idea that, especially entrepreneurs, people don't have an off switch for the things they're super passionate about. So for him, he was like, okay, if I'm going to make a pizza, I put the energy that I put into my business into that pizza when I'm cooking it. It's just, it's just that thing. So
wow. That's exhausting too, though. I think having to always like be super on, or super just intentional, right? I think it's that intentionality is probably what he's getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share with the audience?
Nothing that we didn't cover, but I'm a business owner, so I do have to kind of do a bit of a pitch, right?
Absolutely, do it. Sell your business.
To learn
convince
more.
Me to go to MBA. Convince me to go get an MBA.
Well, we should absolutely talk about that because I think there's huge value in an MBA program. But for all those who are interested in undergraduate support for colleges and universities, or for graduate support for graduate MBA programs, AdmissionsHelp.org is our website. Check it out. Please sign up for a discovery call. And you can also check us out on social. It's at AdmissionsHelp. So looking forward to getting to know you better and helping you on your journey.
Yes, and I will highly recommend her. She knows her stuff. And if I was going to ever go get an MBA, I would give you a call. But
awesome. Thank you.
Yes, but I think that ship has sailed for me.
Never too late. Never too late.
Well, Brittany, thank you. This has been awesome. It's been so great to connect and chat, and just so much wisdom in this chat.
Thank you so much for having me. And honestly, it was great to connect with you, and really looking forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching. If you found this video to be helpful, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. If you are an entrepreneur and want to share your story and be helpful to others, just shoot us an email at behelpfulpodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.